Hey guys, Shelby Smith with Jiminy Crickets. Today I'm going to talk to you about why you might want to start raising crickets. So before we get into why you, the viewer, might want to raise crickets, let's talk about how I got here. So I do have a video all about how I became the cricket lady, so I will try not to go into a long-winded version about how I started growing crickets, but it does help for context to figure out how and why I started raising crickets. So I grew up on a traditional I grew up on a traditional corn and soybean farm here in central Iowa. Went away to college, played basketball, played overseas. I have an undergraduate and a master's degree in finance. Worked in finance for a little while, but realized it just really was not for me and wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. So I quit and moved back to the family farm and started growing corn and soybeans with my dad. But I really didn't want to do that either. Enter crickets. So as a way to go down a different path than what most people think of as traditional agriculture, so corn, soybeans, cows, pigs, chickens, traditional livestock, I was looking for more of a niche. I came across an article about a woman raising crickets for human consumption, and I said, hey, I think I can do that. 10 days later, I bought my first 10,000 crickets. Suddenly, I was a cricket farmer, or a rancher, or whatever you want to call us. So that is a really short version of how I became the cricket lady. Go check out the video if you want to have the long extended version of how I became the cricket lady. But that's how I got into this. I was looking for a different niche than traditional agriculture. I did not want to do what everybody else was doing, so I landed on crickets. But I realized that not everybody's situation is the same as mine. Not everybody is looking for some sort of niche agriculture. Not everybody is really even looking to get into agriculture, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't start breeding crickets. Here's a few reasons why you might want to get into breeding and raising crickets. So reason number one, and this seems like the most immediate reason and probably the most common reason, you need to. You have an animal or a specialty pet that requires live crickets. They won't eat dead ones. Crickets are the most balanced for them nutritionally. Other feeder insects you may have an allergy to. Something. You need crickets, whether it be to feed an animal, whether it to be as fish bait, whether it be you own a pet store or a bait shop or something like that, and getting crickets for your customers is a much more difficult task than it used to be. Bottom line is you need these crickets. You need them either to keep an animal healthy and alive or to keep your business healthy and alive. Whatever the reason, fundamentally, you need the crickets. And at least here in North America, here in the US, I guess I can't speak for all of North America, but here in the US, there is a cricket shortage. The other thing is, if you are in a northern state or northern latitude, during the winter it seems to be much harder to ship crickets. So getting crickets in, again, if you are using them as feeders for your pets or if you are using them in your store to sell on to customers, chances are if you're in the winter you're struggling to get a consistent supply of crickets. Fundamentally, the reason you need to start growing your own is because you're just struggling to get them. Or alternatively, the other thing is they get really expensive. I have heard quotes of them being like 30 cents a piece at local pet stores, which is absolutely insane. Once you figure out the basics, you should be able to save some money on your feeder crickets. Like I said, whether you are needing it as part of your business or if you are needing it just to keep a specialty pet alive. Number one, you need to. Reason number two, sort of in that same vein of the last thing that I was talking about of there being a cricket shortage. Some of it is due to seasonality. Some of it is just because the demands on the cricket market seem to be increasing and the suppliers seem to be decreasing. So in your area, whether you be in a northern latitude and you are noticing in the winter that there is a shortage of crickets and there is a part of a market that you could fill if you were a local supplier, this is another great reason to start growing crickets. You can do it commercially. as I have said in many other videos, if you are going to go this route, please start small. Get it figured out, get your market established, really see what the carrying capacity of your market is before you dive in, head first. Assess it, see if you like it, see if you can really build up that clientele, and then worry about getting into the more complicated shipping and logistics and all of that once you have serviced your immediate area. But so that could be reason number 2, is you just see this opportunity in the market for live crickets specifically, because there is a shortage. Like I said, whether it be seasonal, because it's a winter month and you just can't get crickets shipped in from outside, or you are just noticing that there is just not a consistent supplier of crickets in your area and you think you can fill that need. So that would be reason number 2. And the final reason, which honestly is even more of why I got into what I got into with crickets being food, is you have the opportunity to get into a market at the ground floor. Particularly here in the West, the edible insect or insect protein industry is in its infancy. How many markets do you know of that you can get in at the ground floor and grow from there? There aren't a ton. There's not a lot of opportunities to do something like this. So for me, that was a really big draw. So right now, yes, there's absolutely immediate opportunity in an already established market, in the live market, but there is this, in my opinion, larger opportunity on the food side if you have the patience, if you have the fortitude, if you have the ability to wait, be patient. I believe that the food market is only going to grow from here. So it's a unique opportunity to be in on the ground floor in a market that is in its infancy. That might be another reason that you want to get into raising and breeding crickets. Again, I will stress this, especially if you are going into crickets on the commercial side, so not just for personal use. Please start small. Typically for folks who are, raising crickets because they need them to feed to a specialty pet, for bait, for things like that, I don't have to tell you folks twice that starting small is the way to go. You're only going to grow as many as you need. If you get really good at it, you might start exploring commercial options later, but generally speaking, you are not looking at scaling very quickly. So for those of you who are going commercial, please do consider start small, but do understand that if you are looking at using this as a sustainable income, you are going to have to grow and scale, but please start small, figure out the basics, and then scale up from there. I sound like a broken record with that, but it just goes without saying, please do it. So there you have it. There's a few reasons why you might want to start growing and breeding crickets. Reason number 1, like I said, probably the most compelling reason, and the reason that most people wind up on my channel: you need crickets. Whether it be to feed an animal, for bait, all of those things, you need them and you can't get them, or they're too freaking expensive and there's got to be a better way, and a way that you can save money. If that's you, thank you for being here. I hope that all of those resources that I have in other videos are helpful and can get you off to a start. I do really think that it's accessible to just about anyone if they want to start growing crickets. Reason number 2 is you see a market opportunity because there is a shortage of live crickets. People need crickets to feed their reptiles, to feed their birds, to feed all sorts of different things. Can you tap into that local market? And is there additional seasonal demand if you are in a northern latitude? And the final reason number 3, if you want to get into the food market, when is there a better time to get into a market than on the ground floor? I will say it does take some patience, perseverance, all of those things, because this market is a long ways from done and it is a long ways from getting critical mass, but it is a really cool opportunity that honestly really attracted me to it. So I hope that was helpful for you to think about why you might want to start raising and breeding crickets. If you have any questions at all, please drop them below in the comments. Please hit that subscribe button and follow along on the rest of my videos. As always, if there is a topic that you would like me to cover or like me to go more in depth, please feel free to drop it in the comments and I will do my best to create as informative of a video as possible. But thanks so much for being here, you guys. I will see you next time.